Hello, I'm Matt and welcome to Badger Workshop. So I had a new consumer unit fitted in the house, and as you can see this is all a mess and really needs boxing in. So I'm going to make a cabinet for it. I'm going to use mainly 18mm MDF because I've got loads of scraps and I think I can use up the last of it on this project. I'm going to use this project as a bit of an experiment and use it as an excuse to try a few different techniques. I've not made many cabinets, but I need to do quite a few for the house, so this is a good starting point. As this is all going to be painted, I'm keeping the construction method nice and simple. I'm just going to glue and screw everything together. These mitre clamps come in handy to hold everything in place, and then I can drill and countersink some holes and get it all screwed together. I didn't take all the measurements I need for this cabinet, as it's a bit all over the place. And as I've only got to walk a minute back to the house, I decided just to make the first bit, take it back, offer it up, and then work out what bit needs doing next. I decided this would be easier than trying to draw it all out, and probably would stop less mistakes doing it this way. I think I just prefer to make things up as I go along and sort out problems when I run into them. The top brace couldn't be as wide as everything else, so I had to rip down a thinner bit, and then that can go on the top, and then I suppose I would say I made a box, but I can't even see how many sides that had. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6-sided box. Anyway, so that's the basic shape done. I did go back and add one more bit, and that's a support through the middle, but then I can get on with making the doors. So I went back and watched Peter Millard's video about making panel doors, as this is one of the techniques I wanted to try for this project. He did a great job explaining it and made it look pretty simple, and he used a router to cut the grooves. I don't have a router table, but I do have this 5mm grooving bit, so I swapped this out into the table saw. This is nice flat top teeth, so it needs a nice groove. I can then run the rails and stiles through the table saw, cutting a groove. So as I say, this is a 5mm blade, and I want the panel to be 6mm MDF, so I just need to knock the fence over 1mm just to make the slot a little bigger. Now in my last video I made this tenoning jig, and now you can see what I needed it for. It was to be able to cut the slots safely in the ends of these bits of wood. Now I got a bit carried away doing this, and I ended up cutting grooves in the ends of all 4 sides. I shouldn't have done this. I should have paid more attention to Peter's video. So this is something I'll have to sort out later on. Hopefully the painting will hide all my mistakes. So I cut down some 6mm MDF to be the panel for these doors. Before I go any further, I'm just going to have a dry fit and make sure it all works. Then if I've cut the panel too big, it's easy to trim a bit off before I start getting glue on everything. So you see, it all slides together pretty easily, and then I just get the last bit on, and you've got something that looks a bit like a panel door. But now, if we look closer at one of the ends, you'll see my mistake. I need to cut a loose tenon to fit in that slot, but that other groove doesn't need to be there. So I'm just going to rip down some more of this 6mm MDF to work as a loose tenon, and some other scraps that I can use to fill those holes. So you can see now, the loose tenon will go in here with some glue, and that will give plenty of surface area to glue it all up. These should be pretty strong, as they're going to get glue in all the grooves and in that little loose tenon. A little tricky getting it all glued together, and of course by the second one I'd worked out how to do it. If I got the first 2 bits glued on, and then I could get it pushed up against the wall so it wasn't sliding around when I tried to slide the other bits on. I trim these loose tenons down a bit, and then they get slid into place, and then later on I come back and put another bit of wood in that groove that I cut by mistake. Then slid in all 4 corners, I can get it clamped up and leave it to dry. When it is dry, I can take the track saw and cut the ends flush, trimming off the ends of those tenons, and then I can mix up some 2-part filler and try and fill all my mistakes. When that had dried, I could give everything a sand down. I decided to get the hinges fitted before painting, so I drill some pilot holes and get them screwed on. I then get them all taken off again, ready for painting, but it should make installing it a bit easy later on. Link to these hinges is on my tool page below if you're interested. I'd invested in a reasonably cheap spray gun after watching Peter's videos and Rag and Bones on spraying. And this was my first time using it, and there's definitely a learning curve. I thought spraying outside would be a good idea, but actually any wind and it's not so good. So I think a spray booth will be a future project. I'd primed it and then got some white gloss on, and after a few days of doing that I can then get it installed. It's just going to get screwed on to the existing framework, and then I'm going to come back later, fill the holes and touch it up with paint. Sorry, I'm completely in the way here. It's really hard to film in a hallway. But the doors just go back on and the screws are already in place for where the hinges need to go. I just add some little magnetic catches to help keep the doors closed, and I was going to add some pulls to the doors, but after getting it all installed I decided they didn't need them. They're nice and clean without them, and I'm only going to be opening this cupboard once a month to take a meter reading. Sorry, it's hard to get some good shots of this. It's certainly not perfect, but I learnt a lot doing it, and it means I can use these techniques on something else that's going to be a bit more visible than hidden behind the front door in the hallway. So that's it all done. Thanks to my patrons, thanks for watching, and please subscribe for more videos.